The next thing that we're going to be talking about are topic sentences and transitions. Things that you already should have done are that you should have organized by chapter or topic using titles, subtitles, and or headings. Underneath those, you also should have listed some of the facts that you have already researched. Along with that, you may have started to elaborate on some of your concepts and ideas. If you haven't got there, I wouldn't move on with what we're doing, but I would catch up so that you can work on some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. First of all, topic sentences should relate to the topic of the paragraph. They should always explain why that paragraph is important to your overall topic and should only talk about the ideas that are within that paragraph. Don't talk about topics that are going to be from the past. Don't talk about topics that are going to be in the future. You can do some of that during your writing, but the topic sentence itself is going to be an easy way for someone to see the paragraph and what it is talking about. The next thing that we are going to work on is creating a topic sentence. We're going to use the paragraph that we've already started with Paleo-Indians using spears for food and all of the things that go along with that. Instead of stating the fact right away, you want to give the reader a sense of wonderment about what's going on. You can even create it as if it has its own slight introduction. You don't want to make it long, but instead of coming out straight with the fact, maybe you're going to talk about something to do with the fact. So for this purpose, I'm going to talk about maybe why it's so important that they use spears to hunt food. So, Paleo-Indians, I'm going to make sure it's size 12 because I want that the smaller font. Paleo-Indians were hunters and gatherers. Without tools for hunting and gathering, they would not have survived. Basically, what this does is this is creating a topic sentence. So if a reader wanted to figure out what you were going to talk about to do with tools, in my case, I'd be talking about the fact that they're hunters and gatherers, and those tools are essential to them living their daily lives. Then I would go on to talk about what they used to hunt. So, for example, the spears. Then I could go on to the different tools they may have used if they were farming, which didn't happen often for Paleo-Indians, since they were never very stationary. But anything that they used to cut down trees, cut down plants that they could use to eat, that's where I would go into it, because it's so important. My topic is that I think it's important that Paleo-Indians use tools to live their lives. Otherwise, they wouldn't have survived. You're going to be writing a topic sentence for each one of your paragraphs, but the other thing that you need to focus on while writing your paragraph are going to be transitions. A couple different reasons that you would use transitions are going to be if you're going to give an example of something. Some of the ways that you could start that sentence are going to be an example that shows this is, for instance, one time, or even simply for example. Another thing is if you're going to add on, so if you're going to add more facts, if you're going to keep adding other examples. A couple different ways to transition for this are going to be stating another example that shows this is, in addition to, or furthermore. If you are going to be comparing and contrasting, which some of you may be doing since you are using chronological order, or you're even writing about more than one Native American tribe in each paragraph because you're doing it based off of topic, some of the comparing and contrasting statements that you could use for transitions are in comparison, in contrast, or on the other hand. And lastly, are cause and effect. For the most part, in this piece, you won't be using cause and effect, but you'll be using it later in the semester when we do more science-related writing. A couple examples that you can use are for this reason, consequently, or because of this. These are just a couple examples that you can refer back to at any time on the website if you'd like to use a transition at any point. Now I'll give you an example of creating a transition. The last thing that I'm going to teach today is going to be transitions. Transitions can be used in many different ways. As you saw on the previous slide, you can use them to give examples, you can use them to add on, you can use them for comparing and contrasting. You may also use them for cause and effect. We're going to take the paragraph that I've already started. It has the topic sentence. Actually, it has two sentences that are the topic sentence. And then it has the true example of what they use to hunt food. So, very simply, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the paragraph and find a place where I could use a transition phrase. Like I said, I'm using an example, so I might use the examples that were on the previous page. So, Paleo-Indians were hunters and gatherers. Without tools for hunting and gathering, they would not have survived. Paleo-Indians used spears for food. So I see that now I'm using an example. So instead of saying Paleo-Indians again, and it sounds very repetitive if you keep repeating the same topic, instead of that, I'm going to say, for example, they used spears to hunt food. These spears were made out of many different materials. I could even use a transition phrase. Instead of some of the materials, I could say some examples of those materials. And I just have to delete some of the other part of the sentence here. So some of the examples of those materials were stone-based and mineral-based, but many others were made purely out of wood. The Paleo-Indians hunted many mammals with these spears. That's sort of a different topic, and I'm actually using another transitional part, but since it's another topic, I'm actually going to create a new paragraph out of that. So the Paleo-Indians hunted many mammals with these spears. The Indians were nomadic people, which means they traveled following their needs, and their needs were mainly food-based. Instead of saying some, I'm going to say a couple different examples of the larger animals they hunted were mammoth, deer, and other four-legged animals such as wolves and fox. So, I took what I had. I took my topic sentence, which is going to be up here, the two sentences up there, and instead of keeping on using the exact same phrases, I used transitional phrases to go from the topic sentence into my examples. So I used for example, and I used for example and some examples and a couple examples many different times, but it's showing that there's a transition between the topic and examples of what those are. So your task for the day is to complete anything that you haven't completed from the last couple days. You should have already completed the organizing. That was quick and easy. You should have also done much research and organized your facts in a way that makes sense. Some of you might still be on elaboration. Some of you might be starting to work on topic sentences. Otherwise, I want you to start adding transitions between your ideas. Transitions are very important for the reader. So try to get that done by the end of the day today. Tomorrow we will be sharing